everyone, and welcome to the Ginnie Graham Show. And I am so excited. We got Representative Melissa Provenzano today, and you've had a wild week, a wild session that just wrapped up.
Yes, just catching up on sleep slowly. But there's lots of folks that want to visit, and I'm like, okay, just give us 48 hours. So we've arrived at 48 hours and past 48 hours, and so now we're all all the legislators, you see them kind of creeping out, into different places, and I'm like, oh, there you guys are out in the wild.
Well, I appreciate you giving me 15 minutes of your time because you became kind of the center of some issues between
Yeah,
governor vetoes
yeah,
and popular legislation. But I
yeah,
want you to go over the legislation that miraculously brought everyone together. I mean, if there
yeah,
was legislation that everyone seemed to agree on, it was the breast cancer mammogram legislation.
yeah,
And one of the things I've been seeing is it's been called mammogram greater access. But
yeah,
you passed a bill 3 years ago with House Bill
yes,
3504 that already required insurers to
right,
cover the diagnostic mammograms.
right.
So, can you explain what this bill does, this House Bill 1389?
Sure. In the simplest of terms, back back in the summer of last year, Susan G. Komen reached out to me and said, "So we're, getting," and I was also getting phone calls that said, well, this woman in this part of the state doesn't is saying she can't get access, or this woman is her insurance company is saying no, we won't pay for the diagnostic. And so we defined diagnostic mammogram a few years back in a very particular way: MRIs, ultrasounds, um, and x-ray, certain x-rays, that sort of thing. But what we're finding is that not every machine is available in all parts of the state. And so and then there are new machines that have it just in the last few years that have been added that doctors are starting to use. And so we added more machines to the term or the definition of diagnostic mammogram. So no matter where you are, if you're in Guyman, if you're in Lawton, and you're in Tulsa, you're in Broken Bow, the person that has the control over what gets ordered is the doctor. And so no matter what your zip code is, you have the access. And then we tightened up the language. I actually had a lady say, well, they finally agreed that yes, my MRI is a diagnostic and they'll cover it. But now the insurance company is saying we'll cover that, but now we're going to make you pay for the radiologist to read it. And just, no. So we just kind of tightened up the language um, to make it very clear what's covered, what's not, what's not on the list, that sort of thing, and hopefully this will move the needle forward. Just in according to the Susan G. Komen Foundation, just in the last 3 years since the original piece of legislation has been in place, women have saved close to $1 million here in the state. And so, I mean, that's huge because that's $1 million in our pocket to do something that, else that we need. And it was just very revealing, and just women coming out of the woodwork and men coming out of the woodwork 3 years ago saying, my mother, my sister, my aunt, my wife, me, and this year was no different.
It did seem like a cruel thing not to have because
Yeah,
when in explaining, I'm sure you spend your whole time explaining
yeah,
the mammograms you get routinely just can show an anomaly. But then you
right,
have an anomaly, and then that there would be a time, well, you might have cancer, you might not.
right,
Pay us
right.
1,200 bucks and find out. I mean, that just seems like
Exactly.
a cruel thing to have existed before. And so I know everyone appreciates that work you did on it.
Yeah,
But the added thing is, when you started down this, you got a diagnosis.
yeah. So you
So
kind
can
of
you
got
kind
to.
of tell us what the state of your health is right now?
Sure, I'm actually doing good, pretty well. I was diagnosed, so I agreed to run the piece of legislation in the summer of last year, and then in October, my mom got diagnosed, and then in December, I got diagnosed. So our family's just been, woo, but she's doing well, I'm doing well. But I got to see a front row show of what this looks like, and the impact. And so that you get your screening, all women, of a certain age can get a screening, and that is covered federally. But then when they find something, they order that next more expensive test, the diagnostic. And it can be an ultrasound. It can be all the things. Well, I did the MRI, the ultrasound, the biopsy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And you just see the dollars racking up. And so if we can do this, then, and if we can early detect something, then we're going to catch it earlier. Because when they caught mine, it was less than a centimeter big. It's so small. And because I was able to catch it that early, my treatment pattern was different than, because I think I was stage 0. And can you imagine the treatment approach being different than stage 4, which is much more aggressive. And so December 11th, like, we hit the road running, and I, my doctor is up there at St. Francis, just up the street from me, and he was amazing. And he's like, here are your choices as a woman. You can have a single breast mastectomy, you can have a lumpectomy, you can do all of these things. If you do this, then you have chemo and radiation. If you do this, you just have chemo. And so, personally, we opted to do the right breast mastectomy and then chemotherapy, which the timing could have not been more poetic, because I had surgery mid-January, was cleared to start work the week before sessions started, but then a month later chemotherapy started, and so I was able to get that on Fridays. and so going through session, and every Friday I was getting chemotherapy, and it stopped. I finally finished May 16th. And it was fascinating because they said, well, your hair will probably fall out like, three or 4 treatments in. And sure enough, right about deadline week, my hair just started falling out in close. So I'm like, that's rude. but it did. And we got through it. But I got to, experience what so many women do. 1 in 8 in America, but 1 in 6 here in Oklahoma really jumps up and grabs you and says, this is definitely much more prevalent than we perhaps realize if you're not dealing with it.
What was really moving to see was, I mean, you received standing ovations.
Oh my
People
gosh,
were
yeah.
pink for the
Yeah.
first time around, the
Yeah.
second time around. I mean, what was that like to walk in? Because I don't think you knew that was going to happen.
It was actually very overwhelming. I had gone to Leader Josh West the week before, and I said, listen, if you're, I've got this bill out of committee. If you agree to put it on the floor, could you just do it sooner rather than later? Because I think I'm about to start losing my hair. And he was like, oh my goodness, should I? No, yes. And just, and just so supportive. And yeah, and it was like the first bill up the next week. And when I came onto the floor, and they recognized, and I kind of thought, okay, everybody's acting a little, oh, look at, very, catch your eye, nod, smile. And I'm like, okay, I know I have a bill up today. But then I was the first up, and I turned around, and I had the mic, and you just see this little sea of little dots of pink ties and pink shirts and pink lapel pins. And it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And it
It
passed
was,
unanimously.
yeah, and it was a totally human moment. And Republican and Democrat were stripped away. We were just all humans in that moment. And as I've said, in that time, it was very overwhelming and very moving. And for a moment, politics went away, and I thought, this is real, and it's just in the way the legislature, for me personally, has behaved since, was very moving. Because after that, people that I never would have thought of came up to me to tell me their stories. I mean, I spent the next week listening to stories just inside that building. Can you? And people just been holding on to those things privately, and it was very cathartic.
And it passed the Senate, and
It
then
did.
politics came back.
Politics was
And
back.
yes,
Yes.
We've got the
Yeah,
governor vetoing it with
I
reasons that made
know.
no sense to me. I'm not sure he read the bill. Um,
Well,
my my opinion. I read the
yeah,
reasoning and it was like it'll raise premiums and
yeah,
no. And
no, yeah.
so when you found out about the veto, but granted, he vetoed everything. It was like a tantrum to get the tax cuts. Again,
Yes,
that's my
yes.
thought. I don't think it was anything. But what was your thought when the veto happened? Did you think, okay, we can override this, or I'll just run it next year? Or
All of the above. I was not surprised because I've learned to expect the worst at times. But when I read the veto message, it was, really?
yeah,
No, we actually know that this doesn't increase premiums because, for starters, early detection is far less expensive than late term detection, and you're going to save lives, and people are going to continue to be happy, productive, contributing members of society because you were able to catch it and treat it like me.
mhm,
And it just was stunning. But the second piece is Arkansas and Florida also passed this bill,
mhm.
and it has not increased their premiums. And so I don't know what else to say. I had reached out to the governor and I said, listen, if you're, through his channels, I'd love to meet with you. Tried to get an appointment, couldn't get that appointment. Tried 3 different times, but would love to meet with you if you think you're thinking about vetoing it. Just, here's all the data. Let me come talk to you. Didn't get that opportunity, uh, but I
Got
did
the
meet.
override.
He
Um,
got the override. Speaker Hilbert he's like, I feel like there's plenty of support here, with the unanimous. And I said, absolutely yes. And he's like, okay, well, when that time comes, let's talk again. And he was amazing. The women in of the House and the Senate were amazing, especially after the veto override. They were just stunned. And so I felt good about the veto override, if we were going to get to that point. And
yeah,
so
it was
last day of
got hung
session,
up
we'll
there.
tie.
I do want to say there were 5 people total who voted against it, and I want to say their names. It's
Yeah,
Representatives Tom Gann, Molly
yeah,
Jenkins, and Jim
yeah,
Olson, and
yeah,
Senators Shane Jett and Dusty Devers. And I'm not sure Shane Jett has many friends in the Senate at the moment,
yeah. I don't
but
know.
but again, it was one of those moments um, that it brought people together. I mean, there was a mea culpa on the Senate
Yeah.
floor of I got taken to the woodshed.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Senator Bergstrom with his
Yes,
I went
Michael
home and
Bergstrom
my
took it
wife was
back.
waiting for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I'm sorry, I take it back.
Yeah.
Casey Murdoch was just angry at the idea that even if it raised premiums, he's like, that we're saving lives. I mean, he was
Yeah.
visibly angry. Christy
Yeah.
Gillespie had a very open moment
She
opening up
did.
about her. She goes through mammograms every 6 months now. And so it just seems like one of these things that just brought everyone together. But what's interesting today, I saw there was a letter signed by 28 women
Yeah.
lawmakers from
Yeah.
conservative to liberal
Yeah.
to the governor, and it
Yeah.
read like a science lesson or being taken to the woodshed. I don't know. What where did the letter come from? Did you know about it?
I did. I
what's the intent
did.
behind this letter to the governor from the women?
I think the letter actually sort of started to take shape almost the day after the veto,
Okay.
and they I know that there were members of both chambers working to just get as many as women as we could. And I think when I looked, I thought there was just two women, one in the House and one in the Senate, that didn't sign on or weren't able to sign on at some point. But it was amazing. Senator Brenda Stanley, I can't even begin to tell you just the fire that she brought working the bill in the Senate. And she, I encourage you to reach out to her and listen to her personal story because it's riveting on why she believes early detection is something that absolutely must happen with her husband. And she worked that bill beforehand, and then I watched her on the floor going from person to person to person working the bill, and just the women of the Senate and the women of the House of Representatives were awake, ready, and it was a moment in both chambers just for women to move the state forward a little bit, and I'm so proud.
It is nice to see. But I
Yes.
have to ask you
Oh boy.
before we leave, there was a lot of, I mean, a lot of different moving parts happening on that last day where you
Oh my
had,
gosh. Yes.
a governor putting out a video
Yeah.
that accused some spouses of senators of wrongdoing, other things.
Yeah.
What was it like? Because I saw you on the floor there in the Senate, kind of waiting for your bill.
Yeah.
What was the mood? I mean, were people angry, frustrated,
Yes.
obviously
Yes.
tired?
All of the above, all of the above, and when it's so 10:30 is when the bill, my bill came up on the floor at 10:30, and it was just, we'd spent several hours trying to get unstoppered before then, so we're just kind of like twiddling our thumbs going, well, can we go grab dinner, come right back, who knows, we're all living out of the vending machines just to kind of get by. But it was a very unifying moment when the governor, put his video out calling for Republican, you know, legislators to all be primaried, but then also naming, you know, spouses of legislators. Well, we just don't go there. We just don't do that. Like, I chose to be in the legislature and run for this office and do this job, but my husband is off limits, and unless he chooses to do whatever, and that just, it all kind of compounded with all of the vetoes, and just the tired, and the 10 candy bars you eat and think, oh, I'm going to pay for that later, and then the video and everything just all kind of like, let's go. And it was a very unifying moment for the legislature. And I just thought,
The next day I woke up and because I was that nerd that watched it in real time,
oh yeah,
late at
yeah,
night.
yeah,
And one of the things that I always wondered, where is the line for the legislature? Because we've had some bad
yeah,
behavior out of Ryan
yes,
Walters and other things that I thought,
yeah,
gosh, the legislature just doesn't. And I felt good. I'm like, they found their spine. They
yes,
stood up to
yeah,
what was obviously something wrong. I mean, those
right.
videos were just. I mean, if you don't
They were
agree with
over the
me, vote them
line.
out. If
Yeah,
you don't, because there were lots of different issues going. So
yeah.
I felt better the next morning. How did you feel the next morning?
I felt, I mean, there's always hope that we're going to do the right thing. And we found the will, and the will, the political will, the human will to do a lot of good things all at once on that last day. And I, and I was elated. But there's also this energy, just this raw energy of, let's go, let's, demonstrate that there are branches of government, and we don't answer to others, we answer to ourselves and to our constituents, and we're going to try to do the right thing no matter what. And I think we have an opportunity. We have a new speaker, we have a new pro tem, and this was their first session, but I feel like, and they tried to navigate it, a lot of things I didn't like, a lot of things I did like. I will say again, it's like, no matter how divided we appear to be during campaign season, about 95% of the things that would come to the floor, we all agree on.
Right.
And it's, we don't talk about that enough. And so, because, adversarial, it gets more interest, and being mean to each other is not our default, but during campaign season, all gloves come off, unfortunately. But honestly, we can and will be better, I think, moving forward. Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. Going back to what you said, it was
Yeah.
seeing the branches of each branch of government being strong
Right.
because to be a check on each other. Because I think we
Right.
lose that.
Right.
It's this all or nothing thing, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
we need to have that conversation. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
again, thank you. I know you've got
Yeah.
all kinds of meetings scheduled up and
Very
everything,
good.
but you did great for cancer patients. I'm
Yes.
glad your health is doing well, and
Yes, I'm on
I'm
the path. I'm
glad.
so excited. So yesterday I was looking in, because so this is a wig,
Uh-huh.
and but I was looking at my hair, and I'm like, there's one brown one. It's about that long, and it's just poking out of the top. And I came out of the bathroom and I told my husband, we're on the path. Get me the hair vitamins, give me the Rogaine for women, and
I still say I did wear the pink wig. Just go, if you have to go through all this, you know,
earned it.
difficult
Yeah.
treatment, you might as well, like, you know what? I've always wanted to be a blonde. I've always wanted to do this. It's time to try it. So,
So I plan to. It's actually, it takes a long time, because they're the Pink Wig Project donates those, and I thought, well, okay, I want to do that. So I signed up for it a long time ago, and it's actually supposed to arrive like Thursday, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to wear that out.
Wear it for the next session. So,
We'll
well, I
see.
always want to give guests the last word. So, anything you
Yeah,
want to end with, anything you want to just leave us thinking
yeah. I mean,
about?
I absolutely love that there's so much focus and attention out of Tulsa on what is going on at the Capitol, and I encourage folks to get engaged, figure out, if you don't know who your representative is, figure it out right now because I guarantee you they're making decisions for you. But it feels, and maybe it's just because I'm in it, but there's much more interest here in the Tulsa area, and personally, that's one of the things that I'm looking at growing because I'll be stepping into the leader elect position once Leader Munson moves on. She's running for governor, and so my focus is going to be getting people more engaged and alert, and what is your legislator doing? And so I'm so pleased that this has got a lot of eyes on it, and the last week has garnered a lot of attention because maybe that'll mean people will stay connected.
That's a good idea.
That's
Well,
it. Yeah.
thank you so much, and we'll stay
Yeah.
in touch.
Okay. See you later, Ginny.